I mean, everybody's just doing their own thing. I'm gonna be me 100% of the time. I can't sugarcoat it for nobody, and I don't have to lie to kick it. That's
Yeah.
one and two. So.
Hello again, everyone. For 411wrestling.com, I'm Jerry Strauss. This is The Big Break, and this is AEW's own Big Swole. You see her every week on AEW Dynamite, and she's here, man. She's here. So good to talk to you, Big Swole. How are things going?
It's going good. You know, there's no real big, I guess, big complaints. How are things on your end?
Well, things are good. We're all fighting technological issues these days. That's how we all communicate. But we're working on it. We're working through it. But we want to talk about your story because this show is all about how our favorite stars from pro wrestling got to that one opportunity that changed their lives, that put them on the map in a new way. And you've got really one of the greatest stories I've ever heard, because it's not really about how much you went through in the pro wrestling business, but in life in general. Before we even get to that, how did you first come to pro wrestling? How did pro wrestling first come to you in life?
Well, I lived in Clearwater, Florida, relatively close to Bel Air, and so I was always around wrestlers. Like I live near Terry Hogan, and like I used to see Macho Man at the skate park all the time. Like I ran into Luna, got Rest for Soul in a Walmart, just randomly. So, like my stepdad, he introduced me to wrestling when I was younger. You get bit by that bug, and you get to yell at something, and so I was just excited from there on.
Was there a wrestler that you saw that first kind of captured your attention and maybe made you say, it'd be cool to be just like that person?
Funny story is that I watched a Glacier match, and he always, I know, right? And he always reminded me of, look, now I can't remember the character's name from Killer Instinct, but it's like slipping my mind. But it was always like parallel for me. I'm like, man, he reminds me of that guy from Killer Instinct, and that's all I used to play. So I was like, man, it'd be cool to be like him. And I lumped him and Sub-Zero all in like the same, like cool ice powers type of thing.
Mhm. Nice. So, okay, so you had that in your back pocket now. You start to grow up. You don't head directly into the direction of wanting to be a pro wrestler. First, you head to the military. Was that kind of a lifelong plan for you?
No, actually, my mother, I used to make these little promises to her, and she wanted to go into the military. And so I said that, Mom, when I get older, I'm going to live out one of your dreams. And that's the one I chose because at the time I was very, very patriotic, and I just wanted to serve, and I wanted to make my mother proud. And I picked the Air Force because all the rest of the people who were in the military in my family said, go to the Air Force, you're smart. So that's where I went.
I mean, that's awesome. And I mean, that became the focal point of your life then. And I want to go back to that in a little bit, because I think there's a certain mindset that people associate with being a part of the military that is very rigid and very structured, and very much the opposite of the Big Swole that we see on TV. So I think that's super interesting. You come out of the military. Where did pro wrestling come back into the picture for you?
Well, I took one of my good old friends, Robin Golfin, to his wrestling match because he asked me for a ride. And being, of course, the nice, little big sister that I am, I was like, yeah, sure. Now, he didn't tell me it was 3 hours away. So, and he didn't know how to drive a stick shift. So here I am driving him 3 hours to his show to make, I don't know, 50, 40 bucks. Right, I was 50 bucks a Mountain Dew and a hot dog because this is North Carolina, so yeah, the Mid-Atlantic, you got to pay your dues type thing. And so I kind of fell in love with it from there. And I saw Cedric walk past, and I was like, okay, I can really get back into this because I forgot how good the men looked. So I was like, all right, let me see who's here. And then from there, I just started going to all the little independent shows that I could find.
Now, of course, you're talking about Cedric Alexander. Many know him from WWE these days. I mean, I certainly remember him personally. I've worked for a long, long time for a company called Northeast Wrestling in New York and Connecticut. I remember Cedric probably, I'd have to say, like year one, year two of his career, making those gigantic road trips with like the High Spots crew and driving up from Carolina, Manning and all them, and being a big part of our shows back then. And definitely a guy who seemed to, I mean, just by nature of wanting to make those trips, be very passionate about his career. Is that something that you immediately shared with him? Was that something that you rubbed off on each other as far as that work ethic?
Oh, yes. Oh, most definitely. Because, in all honesty, when I was about to join, when I first started training, he pulled me to the side and he said, well, Ariel, if you're going to do this, you're going to be a wrestler. You're not going to be a women's wrestler. You're just going to be a wrestler. That's it. You know, there's no quitting for you. You know, it's either you really want this or you don't. You know, this is going to be your last job. And so I was like, all right, well, you know, I'm 100% down. I'm 100% with that because, you know, I've already had like my military bearing. So I was like, I'm down for this. So I'm going to continue to do it.
That's great. Now, let's talk about the flip side of the coin. And this is something that just blew my mind. There's this a bit of a segment about you that was on AEW Dark some time ago that I didn't see until just yesterday, but it really opened my mind. Who is Big Swole? And you talked very candidly and openly about your health struggles that you've had. I guess most famously, infamously, Chron's disease, which is obviously something that's very serious and something that was very serious for you to fight through. What was it like for you now to be someone who is so passionate in life, clearly, and pursuing your dreams and pursuing goals? And at that point in your life now, you're in a situation where you have to stop all of that and not worry about what you want and just worry about fighting through this in order to survive. How did that affect your mindset just in life?
Well, it kind of kept me going. I have a firm belief in God, and that faith kept me going because I always told myself, you know, the devil never goes after the ones he already has. He goes after the ones that he don't, the ones that are special, you know, the ones who are meant to be somebody and do something and save folks, and you know. So I kept that type of mentality. You know, I was like, I'm going through all of this because I'm supposed to be going for better, going for greater. You know, there's something else I'm supposed to be doing that, of course, you know, the enemy, you know, that keeping that type of mentality, that type of positivity is what got me to AEW in the first place. People think it's very cliche, but it's all about your mindset.
Yeah, coming out the other side has to be a motivating factor for you, an empowering thing to be able to say, I can conquer anything. I can do anything.
I can, you know, I can move mountains. My thing is I got to make it or make it. Those are my options. I don't have any other options.
Big opportunities throughout your career. You started back in 2015, but we saw you pop up a year or two later on WWE TV, wrestling Nia Jax. We saw you pop up a year or two after that as part of the Mae Young Classic tournament. So you've had these flirtations with bigger audiences and people really getting to get a good look at what you bring to the table. How did those experiences shape you? Because they don't all work out until they work out, right? Is it we'll get them next time, or is there kind of a demoralization? Do you have to kind of fight through a bit of frustration when those things happen to get to the next thing?
Of course. I would be a liar if I didn't say I was frustrated when I didn't get the opportunities that I thought were meant for me, or it was my time to shine. But it just made me hungrier. You know, just knowing that whatever it is that I was like meant for and I was destined for is greater than whatever just passed me. You know, that no is going to turn into a yes from someone else. And that, you know, I didn't know it at the time, but like I said, it's that mentality that keeps you going. You know, it's saying that no, there's something else that's out there for me, and it's going to be better than whatever it is they were going to offer me. I love having complete, you know, freedom to be me.
It's amazing, and it's been so enjoyable to see you so clearly, so obviously being in your comfort zone. now that we can finally see you on a regular basis. I got to touch on the story. You told this on AEW's own podcast, but you talked about your experience backstage with WWE and your decision to kind of go after Brock Lesnar and tell him that you can, in fact, kick his ass, which a bold move in most people's book. You talked about just kind of break the ice and trying to change the mood of so many around you who are being very polite and just overly well-mannered, I guess, and
Right.
trying to, and bothering him perhaps in the process. First of all, what goes through your mind at that point? Is it really just the idea of everyone's turning left, I just have to turn right?
I mean, everybody's just doing their own thing. I'm just like, I'm gonna be me 100% of the time. I can't sugarcoat it for nobody, and I don't have to lie to kick it. That's one and two. So when I'm out and about, I'm like, I don't care who you are. You're a human just like me. I'm pretty sure we put your pants on, you take your pants off. Like I don't care who you are. If something is funny, it's going to be said. I mean, I'm abrasive. I guess that's the word that corporate labels people who are like me, abrasive. But I don't give a flying flip.
Well, does it, being 5-6 years in the pro wrestling business, do you think that's paid off for you over time or not paid off? Because you can see both sides of it, where I'm sure there's some people who, it gives them ammunition to be critical of you.
It does.
At the same time, there's people who probably appreciate that.
There are a lot of people who appreciate my abrasiveness. And in all honesty, I've gotten respect. And that's what I'm here for, like, I have a lot of respect to a lot of various different people, and it's because they're like, oh, Swole or Ariel, she don't play no games. She's 100% her 100% of the time. You talk to me and you want some advice. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. Like, and sometimes, hey, the truth hurts. So I'm like, it could be ammunition for somebody. I don't know. Somebody could be gunning for my back, but I tell you what, if you do shoot, you better not miss, because I shoot back. People love me because I'm different. I'm not like every other celebrity or whoever else that's out there. Like, I don't care. You shoot at me, I'm gonna shoot back. Period.
And again, I want to bring up the Who is Big Swole segment. It was part of an AEW Dark episode, but I do want people to go back and look at that, because there's some really candid footage there of exactly what we came here to talk about, which was that moment where you finally, after all these challenges, got exactly what, I have to believe was a very important goal for you. This was the All Out pay-per-view. I believe you were part of a women's battle royal. Yes. And after the fact, we got backstage footage, Kenny Omega, yourself, a conversation, and a job offer right there on the spot.
Yes, actually, it was at my match against Sheeta and Charlotte.
Oh,
that footage, that footage. It's just I wore the same gear for that actual singles debut.
So this was immediately after that match. Now, what were just to set the stage here for this this happening, what was the relationship like between you and AEW before that match? Like, did you feel this opportunity potentially on the table?
Kind of yes and kind of no, actually, because we just had various conversations beforehand. Just coming in and, just working and seeing how I am and how I mesh with all the talent and everything like that. So it wasn't any like conversations of, hey, we would like to sign you type of thing. It was just I'm showing and proving. So the best thing about that night, though, was it was in Charlotte. And that's where I first started training. And, of course, at High Spots under Mr. Number One, George South. It was so great because everyone pretty much who was out there were either friends, or acquaintances, or they were people who did not believe in me from the beginning. And so just to have that moment where, like, when it says, like, I'll prepare a table before you in the midst of your enemies, and just to be out there shining and, like, killing it with Sheeta And that's the match that I got the most, I got the most praise on. I got signed off for that match. I got a whole bunch of Swole chants, and those same people who were dogging me out for years or saying, "Oh, you're only, going to be Miss Cedric," were the same ones in the front row cheering me on. So it was so fantastic. I couldn't have written a better story or a better day.
Was George South himself, was he there that night?
No, George wasn't there. George don't come to shows. He don't like a lot of I guess not too much praise. Anybody tries to put him over, it's like, "Oh, I didn't do nothing. You did it yourself," type of thing. And he knows that, like, anytime he will show up, somebody's automatically going to pull him up or try to raise his hand or something. And George ain't about all that. He just likes to deal with the workings.
Gotcha. So you go out, you have this match, the crowd just goes nuts for you. Mm-hmm. You come back through the curtain. This is the footage that we see on that episode of AEW Dark. And you could still, the great thing is you could still hear the crowd just going nuts, like in the wake of what you just did. And it's just this great organic moment of, I believe Kenny says on camera, like, listen to them, like the people, like that. The ultimate show and prove, it's not necessarily about a 5-star thing or whatever. It's look how these people reacted to you. We want you as part of this company, like, and such a great moment for you and for AEW to kind of come together in that moment. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'd have to imagine that was an emotional moment for you.
Oh, yes. It was very emotional. Not even, I guess, beyond the fact of him, Kenny Omega actually offering me a contract, that's like the huge mark out moment for, I'm pretty sure, for any worker out there, but also for it to happen in front of Hangman Page. Because a lot of people don't know is that I've known Hangman for 9 years. And I remember watching him and Cedric wrestle at PWX and all over, like up and down North Carolina and South Carolina. And when he was just Adam Page, and him being right there. And you see me like in the video, I'm like, "Stevie!" Like I just like lose all kayfabe and call him by his first name and everything. And like I give him a big old hug. And it was a good moment because I had someone from home, from where we all started, where I wasn't even training yet. And just having that moment with him, it was, like I said, I couldn't have written it better.
Pretty amazing, because it's, again, in your hometown, so it's like this local atmosphere, but at the same time, you've just basically taken your step towards global stardom right there in your home base.
Circle. Well, it was completely full circle. And I had Arn on commentary for a match. So I was like, what is life?
So last question for you. Now you're an AEW star. Things are just going up and up and up and up. How does this align with what you thought you would be when you first endeavored to become a pro wrestler? Because not only are you a national, worldwide superstar, you're also a major role model, not just because of the importance of women in AEW in general and the focus on that, but because of all of your struggles that you've so eloquently and so boldly made public. Did you ever consider yourself to be on that road, to be someone that could inspire people to the level that you're doing right now?
Yes, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, yes. I'm believing it and I'm achieving it type of thing. I'm a firm believer of putting things out into the universe and you answer your call. So I've always wanted to be a role model for anybody because I had that growing up, and I know people, and there are people out there, especially youth, who aren't as fortunate as I am to have the backing and, the leadership and the tutelage and my, like people like my mother around who aren't there for them, who could just say, "Hey, you can do this." It's as simple as that. And I know that in this world, you have to be someone in order to reach and touch lives the way I want to on a global scale. So all of this isn't really for me. I don't want to be famous. I just want to reach people.
Well, too bad. You're famous.
I know, right?
Deal with it.
Comes with it, I guess.
It's been awesome to kind of relive this story with you from your own words. And it's truly inspiring just to hear everything that you've gone through. And I think a lot of people are going to understand the different side of you beyond all the fun that we see just once you're in the ring each and every week on Dynamite. It's cool that people get to know how you got here. So thank you so much for being on the show, for telling your story.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great day. We're cutting here.
You too.